Great to have you on the show with us, Mr. Rahim. Of course, let's start off with the fact that perhaps this may be the first time that we're really feeling that conflict in the Middle East on a global level. What are your thoughts? Is it just perception on our part, or is the conflict this time around having a much wider impact than before?
Well, it's a conflict that's gone on for 8 decades. And since its inception, it has had global dimensions, partially because of the involvement of the United States in support of Israel from its creation, but also with the solidarity of many people in the global South and the Muslim world with the Palestinian cause. So there has been obviously that international nature. But what feels different today is that it seems to have a greater great power element where the conflict could grow very quickly beyond the confines of Israel and Palestine, or of course just Gaza itself. And we saw a little bit of that last week. So definitely there is something different and people are feeling it. And you are correct to point that out.
And you're right, because for the first time, what we're seeing is company boycotts. In the U.S., we're seeing Ivy League universities, students and lecturers clashing there, attacks on global brands as well. Markets also reacting more strongly to this conflict. Give us some insight into how this is likely to influence decision by investors going forward, how this is likely to influence the global economy this time around.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of volatility this year. You have the American elections and a heightened political awareness in the West. And so there's a risk for global brands, corporates who get engaged in any type of politicized activity. They don't know which way to turn. McDonald's, Starbucks, some of the biggest brands in the world have been kind of hit by taking a stance that kind of got them in hot water. But on the other side, you have a lot of brands who might be having plans for global expansion, who might be seeing a strong economy, and then all of a sudden thinking, what if our shipping lanes in the Middle East kind of come to a halt? And so there's a lot of hedging going on right now. And I think over the next 2 weeks to 4 weeks is going to be critical to see if the tensions start to subside. One of the biggest challenges is that anything can happen at any time because the conflict is so open-ended. And that creates a tremendous tail risk for some of the largest companies and institutions operating globally.
Now, for a lot of the world, the question is, when does this come to an end, and what will it take for this conflict in the Middle East to come to an end? And if you ask most to explain that conflict in the Middle East, they'll tell you it's a long and, of course, complex history. There's also a diverse group of players. And you touched a little bit on this in your book, not a little bit, but a lot. Is there an end in sight? What is your take? What is your outlook?
Well, there's definitely a lot of complexity. There's a lot of players. There's a history that goes back immediately 130 years. But of course, there's centuries of roots and different type of narratives that kind of cascade. However, when you get to the crux of it, actually the contours of a solution are quite well known. People could agree on it tomorrow. What's lacking is the political will and incentive. And that's really where the United States, to be perfectly honest, has a strong role to play, as well as the Arab countries in ensuring that there's an organized element on the Palestinian side ready to kind of make a deal. And right now, that's missing. So you have an intransigent Hamas on one side, and you have an intransigent Israeli government on the other. And that's really the obstacle. And I would say all of the elements of hatreds and tensions and that people point to, they're there. But actually, people are very able to come to a solution if there is the right political will and incentives in play.
Well, Mr. Rahim, this is certainly a conversation that requires at least an hour, but thank you so much for giving us your time. We do have to leave it there. That, of course, was Tawfiq Rahim, who is the author of the book Middle East in Crisis and Conflict, joining us there.